Hey everyone, welcome to day 26 of our Bible in a Year series. Today we are reading through Exodus 20. I keep on wanting to say Genesis. Exodus 25 through 27. And we are plugging right along. We're reading through the Christian Standard Bible. I have a link for a physical Bible of that if you're interested in the description. It is a CSB Apologetic Study Bible. It is a great resource. I have a video as well, kind of going over why I speak so highly of this Bible, why I like it, why I think it's so great for people, the benefits and things like that. And if you're interested, you check those out. If not, no worries. But with all that being said, we will jump straight into the Word. Okay, Exodus 25 is where we're starting. Exodus 25, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to take an offering for me. You are to take my offering from everyone who is willing to give. This is the offering you are to receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, fine linen and goat hair, ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, and onyx, along with other gemstones for mounting on the ephod and breastpiece. They are to make a sanctuary for me, so that I may dwell among them. You must make it according to all that I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle, as well as the pattern of all its furnishings. They are to make an ark of acacia wood, 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it both inside and out. Also make a gold molding around it. Cast 4 gold rings for it and place them on its 4 feet, 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other side. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark in order to carry the ark with them. The poles are to remain in the rings of the ark. They must not be removed from it. Put the tablets of the testimony that I will give you into the ark. Make a mercy seat of pure gold, 45 inches long and 27 inches wide. Make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them a hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other end. At its 2 ends, make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat. The cherubim are to have wings spread out above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and are to face one another. The faces of the cherubim should be toward the mercy seat. Set the mercy seat on top of the ark and put the tablets of the testimony that I will give you into the ark. I will meet with you there above the mercy seat between the 2 cherubim that are over the ark of the testimony. I will speak with you from there about all that I commanded you regarding the Israelites. One thing that I think is kind of interesting is we see also that Israel is not supposed to have graven images of God, of anything in heaven, anything like that. And so a lot of what they have here is it's not angels. I think it's a common misconception that there are angels depicted and things like that when they're really not supposed to, so that it wouldn't have been in there. So this is it's giving them instructions on stuff, but it's and that's maybe a little bit rabbit hole we can go down another time. But I think it's also as we're getting into this, we're getting into, again, the importance of holiness and everything having to be done perfectly. Remember that the law was given to Israelites not so that they can see what they need to do to earn their way to heaven, but so that they can see that they cannot earn their way. They are not good enough. The law is there to show us that you are not good enough. And so this is kind of adding on to that. There's all these extra steps just for God to be able to indwell, or not indwell, dwell there with the people, in the midst of the people. Verse 23. You are to construct a table of acacia wood, 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Overlay it with pure gold and make a gold molding all around it. Make a 3-inch frame all around it and make a gold molding for it all around its frame. Make 4 gold rings for it and attach the rings on the 4 corners at its 4 legs. The rings should be next to the frame as holders for the poles to carry the table. Make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and the table can be carried with them or by them. You are also to make its plates and cups, excuse me, as well as its pitchers and bowls for pouring drink offerings. Make them out of pure gold. Put the bread of the presence on the table before me at all times. You are to make a lampstand of... Just lost my spot. You're to make a lampstand out of pure hammered gold. It is to be made of one piece, its base and shaft, its ornamental cups, and its buds and petals. 6 branches are to extend from its sides. 3 branches from the lampstand from one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand from the other side. There are to be 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a bud and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with the bud and petals on the next branch. It is to be this way for the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand. There are to be 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms on the lampstand shaft along with its buds and petals. For the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand, a bud must be under the first pair of branches from it, a bud under the second pair of branches from it, and a bud under the third pair of branches from it. Their buds and branches are to be of one piece. All of it is to be a single hammered piece of pure gold. Make it 7 lamps and set them up so that they illuminate the area in front of it. Its snuffers and fire pans must be of pure gold. The lampstand with all of these utensils is to be made from 75 pounds of pure gold. Be careful to make them according to the pattern you have been shown on the mountain. Okay. Chapter 26. The Tabernacle. You are to construct the tabernacle itself with 10 curtains. You must take them of finely spun linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, with a design of cherubim worked into them. Each curtain should be 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. All the curtains are to have the same measurements. 5 of the curtains should be joined together, and the other 5 curtains joined together. Make loops of blue yarn on the edge of the last curtain in the first set, and do the same on the edge of the outermost curtain in the second set. Make 50 loops on the one curtain and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain in the second set, so that the loops line up together. Also make 50 gold clasps and join the curtains together with the clasps I lost my spot, sorry. So that also make 50 gold clasps and join the curtains together with the clasps, so that the tabernacle may be a single unit. You are to make curtains of goat hair for a tent over the tabernacle. Make 11 of these curtains. Each curtain should be 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. All 11 curtains are to have the same measurements. Join 5 of the curtains by themselves and the other 6 curtains by themselves. Then fold the 6th curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops on the edge of one curtain, the outermost in the first set, and make 50 loops on the edge of the corresponding curtain of the second set. Make 50 bronze clasps and put the clasps through the loops and join the tent together so that it is a single unit. As for the flap that remains from the tent curtains, the leftover half curtain is to hang over the back of the tabernacle. What remains along the length of the tent curtains, a half yard on one side and a half yard on the other side, should hang over the sides of the tabernacle on either side to cover it. Make a covering over the tent from ram skins dyed red, and covering of fine leather on top of that. You are to make upright supports of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each support is to be 15 feet long and 27 inches wide. Each support will have 2 tenons for joining. Do the same for all the supports of the tabernacle. Make supports for the tabernacle as follows: 20 supports for the south side, and make 40 silver bases under the 20 supports. 2 bases under the first support for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under the next support for its 2 tenons. 20 supports for the second side of the tabernacle, the north side, along with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases under the first support and 2 bases under each support, and make 6 supports for the west side of the tabernacle. Make 2 additional supports for the 2 back corners of the tabernacle. They are to be paired at the bottom and joined together at the top in a single ring. So it should be for both of them. They will serve as the 2 corners. They are to be 8 supports with their silver bases, 16 bases, 2 bases under the first support, and 2 bases under each support. You are to make 5 crossbars of acacia wood for the support on one side of the tabernacle, 5 crossbars for the supports on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 crossbars for the support on the back side of the tabernacle on the west. The central crossbar is to run through the middle of the supports from one end to the other. Then overlay the supports with gold and make their rings of gold as the holders for the crossbars. Also overlay the crossbars with gold. You are to set up the tabernacle according to the plan for it that you have been shown on the mountain. You are to make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely spun linen with a design of cherubim worked into it. Hang it on 4 gold-plated pillars of acacia wood that have gold hooks that stands on 4 silver bases. Hang the curtains under the clasps, and bring the ark of the testimony there behind the curtain, so the curtain will make a separation for you between the holy place and the most holy place. Put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Place the table outside the curtain and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle. Opposite the table, put the table on the north side. For the entrance to the tent, you are to make a screen embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely spun linen. Make 5 pillars of acacia wood for the screen and overlay them with gold. Their hooks are to be gold, and you are to cast 5 bronze bases for them. Okay, chapter 27. And so far, a lot of what we've been seeing on here is it's talking about there's a lot of value going into this. This is not something that is cheap, and this is not something that is just very quickly thrown together. There's a lot of value. There's a lot of preparation. This is something that it has to be done for Israel. Israel has to do it in a way that is not. It definitely shows some reverence, some intentionality. Okay. Chapter 37. You are to construct the altar of acacia wood. The altar must be square, 7.5 feet long and 7.5 feet wide. It must be 4.5 feet high. Make horns for it on its 4 corners, and the horns are to be of one piece. Overlay it with bronze. Make its posts for removing ashes, and its shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans. Make all of its utensils of bronze. Construct a grate for it of bronze mesh, and make 4 bronze rings on the mesh at its 4 corners. Set it below under the altar's ledge, so that the mesh comes halfway up the altar. Then make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. The poles are to be inserted into the rings so that the poles are on 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. Construct the altar with boards so that it is hollow. They are to make it just as was shown to you on the mountain. You are to make the courtyard for the tabernacle. Make hangings for the south side of the courtyard out of finely spun linen 150 feet long on that side, including 20 posts and 20 bronze bases with the silver hooks and the silver bands. for the posts, and so make hangings 150 feet long for the north side, including 20 posts and their 20 bronze bases with silver hooks and silver bands for the posts. For the width of the courtyard, make hangings 75 feet long for the west side, including their 10 posts and their 10 bases, and for the width of the courtyard on the east side toward the sunrise, 75 feet. Make hangings 22.5 feet long for one side of the gate, including their 3 posts and their 3 bases, and make hangings 22.5 feet long for the other side, including their 3 posts and their 3 bases. The gate of the courtyard is to have a 30-foot screen embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely spun linen. It is to have 4 posts and their 4 bases. All the posts around the courtyard are to be banded with silver and have silver hooks and bronze bases. The courtyard is to be 150 feet long, 75 feet wide at each end, and 7.5 feet high. All of it made of finely spun linen. The bases of the posts are to be bronze. All the utensils and the tabernacles for every use and all its tent pegs, as well as all the tent pegs of the courtyard, are to be made of bronze. You are to command the Israelites to bring you pure oil from the crushed olives for the light in order to keep the lamp burning regularly. In the tent of meeting outside of the curtain that is in front of the testimony, Aaron and his sons are to tend the lamp from evening until morning before the Lord. This is to be a permanent statute for the Israelites throughout their generations. Okay, that is it for the reading for today. We do have 3 questions again, like we've been doing. So we'll hit these, and I think I may have touched on these actually a little bit as we were reading through. Question 1: what do the instructions for the tabernacle reveal about God's holiness and his desire for relationship with his people? Again, this is showing the importance of holiness and all of these steps and things that need to go into this, just for God to have some type of relationship with his people, for God to dwell in the presence there. Now this is changing. We'll get into this a little bit when we get into some of the New Testament stuff, but this is changed now. There's some differences there, but this is to show kind of how much has to go into it just to, and I think if we're thinking about it now, I think we can kind of appreciate how much maybe easier it is for us now, that there's not all these other external steps, that Jesus kind of set this up for us to be able to go directly. Question 2: how can we understand the symbolism of the tabernacle in our own lives, and what does it mean for us to be a temple of the Holy Spirit today? So there is a lot of symbolism, and I'm not going to be able to touch on all of it, but the building materials, the different things that are constructed, there's one it talks about it eventually when it gets to the high priest robes, and like one specific thing I'm actually very familiar with is the red that they would use to color a certain aspect of this, that actually comes from this insect called the crimson worm. This is where they would get it, and that worm. So there's a section of Isaiah where it's talking about it's a messianic prophecy, and it's talking about Jesus, and it actually says he says, I am a worm. But this crimson worm, it attaches itself to a tree when it's ready for its children to be born. It attaches itself to its tree, and this shell comes over it, and then its children are born, and its children actually survive by eating the flesh of the adult, of the parent, and then it leaves behind this like red resin type stuff, I think, and that's what's used for the red dye. And then also, like, if it's left, it actually turns into like this white like flake, and it looks like snow. Like it can fall from the tree, and it looks like a snowflake falling. Like there's even that's just like one little tiny element. There's so much symbolism, and a lot of that's extra biblical about the crimson worm. Just knowing like where this actually came from and what they would use to get that dye. But there is so much in there that points, like, without even people realizing it, points directly to Jesus. But the rest of the symbolism that's in the tabernacle, it's a lot of pointing to Jesus. It's a lot of pointing to a lot of different aspects of that. Now, I think what we can take away as far as us being the temple is knowing how much went into setting up and sanctifying and keeping the temple holy. We see that Aaron and his sons are supposed to keep this lamp burning perpetually. So that is a non-stop intentionality, keeping this going, keeping this one aspect, this one element of the temple, keeping it going constantly without stop. And so that's something, like, as far as us personally with our lives and our bodies, an intentionality with it of setting ourselves up to be the actual temple of God, the Holy Spirit. Question 3. In what ways can the principles of worship and reverence illustrated in these chapters inform our approach to worship in our communities? I do think that there is, and this is a lot in, definitely a lot more in Protestant circles, and even in Protestant circles, a lot more among Pentecostal evangelicals. There is a lot lacking as far as the reverence of God. There is very much a sense of kind of seeing God as just a friend. There's also a lot of, it sounds weird, but almost viewing God as like a boyfriend type role. I'm not going to get into that a ton right now, but it gets away from the reverence of God. There have been very few people I know that I think properly demonstrate and I'm not great about it at times. I can definitely do better a lot of the time. But I think reading through and seeing what they had to go through just to have God dwell in their presence, in where they were at, like, how much more should we be, like, honoring and revering God and what he's doing and where he's at and things like that, and just what he's done for us and providing an opportunity for us to be close to him and interact with him and have a relationship with him. I think there's a lot more reverence that can go into that for everybody. So I think that's it for today. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff, and hope this is still a blessing to some people. I know I see there's some videos that I'm doing on these that are spiking up a little bit more on views kind of across different platforms, but there's some consistency across, so I'm hoping that there's people that are getting something out of this, that are getting blessed by this, that are actually getting something from this, that helping them grow in one way or another. If you have anything you want to pass along, feel free to put that in the comments or reach out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter. I'm probably the most active on X, so if you really want to get in touch with me, that probably would be the best way to do it, but any of those should work. If you're not on X or whatever reason, if you want to reach out on another, that should be fine. But love to hear from people. I hope this has been a blessing to you. Pass it along. Word of mouth is still the best way that podcasts spread. So if this has been a blessing to you, pass this along to other people, and if you think it's going to be a blessing to them as well. And that is where we will end it for today. So God bless.